What's the most effed up thing someone has told you about themselves after barely getting to know them? Hitchhiking through New Zealand, I got picked up by a semi-driver. Awesome guy, but an hour into the drive started unloading every bit of personal information he could. How he's cheated on his wife, screwed the company out of money, stolen items. It was like I was a priest in a confession booth. When I asked him why he told me all of that, he said it's been eating him up inside for years and telling me helped get it off of his chest. He said I had no idea who he or anyone he knew was, so it felt like I was the perfect person to unload on. I mean, you can't argue with his logic. Y'all will probably never see each other again, so he's safe from repercussions. New roommate told me her current boyfriend got kicked out of college for sexual assault and was under investigation for another case of sexual assault. Wanted my opinion about it within like 2 hours or meeting. Completely disregarded that my opinion was run. Everyone keeps saying that, but I don't think any of you understand how complicated this is. Yesterday I was walking with a friend of a friend after my friend left me. He started telling me benefits of nofap and his pervertness out of nowhere, like telling me how it had affected him and his life personally. He told me how he masturbated in a train sitting with all his friends in such a way nobody noticed. Then he goes on telling me how he asked his father for help, for which his father asked him to drink buttermilk because apparently it reduces the addiction. I was buying an AC at Home Depot during Black Friday sales. There were none on the shelf, so an employee was helping me get the display model. He carried it all the way to the cashier for me. I thanked him and wished him a happy holiday season. A shadow crossed his face, and he looked me straight in the eye and told me he killed someone a year ago during the holidays. He ran a man over and killed him. It was ruled an accident, but he said he won't ever celebrate a holiday again because of that. Edit to add more info and answer a couple questions. I thought the employee was effing with me as well. I did some searching online when I got home and found the news article, and he did indeed hit and kill a man. It was a super raining evening and just starting to get dark. The person killed was heavily intoxicated and veered into the oncoming traffic. That's one way to get out of the work Christmas party. This happened to my wife. We had just moved into a new house and the lady next door came over to introduce herself to my wife. As she was talking, she informed my wife that her husband was mad at her because she had farted when he was going down on her. I think I would have a difficult time not busting out laughing if someone told me this. And remembering it every time I saw her. Be like, oh Lord, here comes Poots. Puss in Poots. Oh my God. I saw a post on here somewhere asking what you would do if a woman farted while you were going down on her, and the comment I'll never forget was, put my finger in there and whisper, SHH, little fella, you're next. We were 17, first year of uni, and I had known the guy for a week or two tops. Out of effing nowhere, he tells me he had a kink for getting farted in the face by girls. I pissed myself laughing, and we became good friends for a while. I was a teenager working retail and there was a fidgety older woman I worked with. I was always very nice to her, but she was just a co-worker at the end of the day. One day she told me about her grandpa molesting her when she was young. Her parents didn't believe her, so it continued until he died. She said she was glad he died and was happy at his funeral. I really had no clue what to say since this was out of nowhere. I just said I was really sorry it had happened. Felt really bad for her because I could tell it still really bothered her. As a parent, I cannot imagine dismissing my daughters if they came to me with that, or anything like it. That's effing unthinkable. Never underestimate the power of denial. I was doing a service call at a house and just making small talk when the owner mentioned out of the blue that she's married to her uncle. I've been there twice, and both times they felt the need to tell me. It's kind of weird. Doesn't that make her dad's sister-in-law? And her own aunt. Lady at work started telling me about land she owned in another state that is not part of America. She then started talking about how every American is a bond to the government, and your SSN is just your bond number. Wealthy people own those bonds and own you. She started naming off prices of bonds based off people's races and genders. This was all said after I simply asked her what she was doing with her long weekend coming up. Weirdly enough, I had a dude tell me all this unprompted during my first night shift at Dollar General. All I asked was if he wanted his change. Do I want change? The only change I want is for the government to abolish the bond system. That he broke in and beat the crap out of a guy who raped his daughter, put the guy in the hospital, with a baseball bat. I totally get why he did it, but I have no idea why he thought it was a good story to tell a new coworker. He took one look at you and was like, "This looks like a guy who would rape my daughter, I'd better not let him get any ideas." Jesus Christ. No, I don't think it was him. She said that if I wanted she would kill her parents, so we can live at her house. I never went on a second date with her. Original poster replies. Well, at least you know there's a crazy woman out there, that's willing to kill her own family for you. That's something. Yeah, too much. Bro, you let a good one get away. Have you seen the housing market lately? I had to stay late when I was a manager as one of the female employees' parents were running late. She broke down to me about how she had been sexually abused by her best friend's father and that he had been doing it to her best friend for years. He was in jail after he did it to her, as she reported him, and sadly the daughter hated her for turning in her father as she thought it was normal behavior. She had only been working there for a few weeks at this point, and we had probably only worked together a handful of times, so I really didn't know her that well yet, but I think she just needed someone to know she was struggling with it and someone to tell her it wasn't her fault and what he did was wrong. I think it's easier to tell a thing like this to someone you don't know well. I'm good friends with someone now who, at the beginning of our friendship, confided a similar thing to me. And they hadn't told other friends they'd known for much longer. I think there's a bit of safety in the idea that even if they get rejected by this person, at least they didn't know them well. And it's a hell of a thing to hold on to alone, you know? Girl at the gym told me she was in an unhappy marriage and never loved her husband, and as soon as the kids finished school she was leaving him. Pretty sure I didn't even know her name. This guy I'd worked with for a couple days told me he had been meeting older men at a state park and having sex for money. We worked at an upscale deli. Hustler out there slinging salami day and night. F you, Arby's. This guy's got the meats. At work me, hey new guy, nice to meet you. New guy, yeah you too. Check out this picture of a dude in a coffin. That's my nephew. He was killed in a drive-by last month. Me, let me show you where the coffee maker is. I went with my dad to do an estimate for some work on a house. When I met the owners I literally only said hi, your house is gorgeous. And the wife went into full detail on how they'd bought it the year before because their 15-year-old daughter was attacked and raped. She ended up pregnant from it. They were super religious and convinced her to keep the baby. They pulled her out of school for a year while she was pregnant. They bought the new house in a new school district, so she could go finish high school without having to face her former classmates. They were now raising the baby as her younger brother. I was pretty much speechless. What do you even say to that? Who the F starts a conversation like that? You just sat down. When I used to work in construction, I was on a project with this old guy that told me he was once accused of raping his daughter, but after an investigation was conducted it turned out it was his brother who committed the crime. Way too much information. Had another idiot showing everyone pictures on his phone of him and his stripper wife having a threesome. Can't say I miss the trades. When I was around 10, I lived beside this weird family. The little girl was probably 4 or 5. Always clinging to me anytime we were outside. She talked incessantly and always wanted to hang out with me, asking to come into my house. She annoyed me so badly, but she was really sweet and excited about everything. One day she tells me, "Do you ever naked wrestle with your dad?" I told her that's really weird and no. I don't even know what that means. She then tells me she and her dad and brother naked wrestle a lot. Forgive me, but I was 10, I had no idea what the F I was being told. I still think about that to this day. The guilt eats at me. I wish I had understood more and told someone. I also had a classmate in high school I'd give rides to and from school, so she wouldn't have to make her dad do it. After we graduated, I saw her working at the mall. She then told me her dad used to molest her, and she was finally able to see a therapist and work through it. When someone says these things happen more often than we realize, they're not wrong. I have had years and years of training on signs of this type of abuse, and it will forever break my heart and make me so angry. It's unfathomable. I found child porn on my dad's computer when I was 13. My parents were controlling, so I didn't really know much about sex yet. But I realize now that if I told someone else about it, my cousin, 5 at the time, would never have been molested by him. This was a patient. Middle-aged guy in short-term nursing home for a hip replacement or something. I'm trying to get to know him to figure out what kind of skills he may need to work on in order to return home safely. I ask him, "Do you cook?" He responds, "I used to, but then the cops found out." That guy is a legend. Years ago I went on a date with a guy I met via AOL Personals. Within 5 minutes of the date, he told me he was working on a book about speed seduction. And he was so confident he could speed seduce me, he already had a condom on ready for me. I hightailed out of there full speed. I googled him a while back and turns out he ended up self-publishing the book. Original poster replies. And he was so confident he could speed seduce me, he already had a condom on ready for me. Original poster replies. Who says stuff like that? Guy sounds like a punchline to a bad joke. I honestly sat there for about a minute staring at him in shock. It was so effing weird and scared the crap out of me at the time. I had a guy tell me that he and his cousin slept with the same person. Another guy telling me that when his cousin committed suicide, he wanted to drink himself to death. This was a first date. I also had some girl I went to middle school with randomly tell me over Facebook that she lost her virginity to her cousin. WTF is with the cousins. Dude got hired at my job, and within the hour, not only was he saying massively homophobic and racist crap, he also told a story. A story about how, at his second job the day before, his coworker got his hand caught in a machine. This dude absolutely delighted in telling us that, not only did he openly laugh in his face while the dude sat there sobbing in pain with a missing hand, he also kept telling the guy that he was going to be in debt for the rest of his life because no one's going to pay for the accident, his wife is going to leave him, he was going to lose his job, etc. Basically whatever he could say to make this dude's awful day even worse. And he got glee out of it. The second he finished that story I told him to get the F out, and never come back. I was MOD, because what the actual F? Guy walks into my bar, which is down the street from a hospital. He's pretty quiet, so I'm not trying to push for a conversation. Next thing I know, he breaks down crying at the bar. I go to ask if he's okay, if I need to call him a cab, etc. He told me his teenage son had just died in the hospital down the street about an hour earlier. I had no idea what to say or how to react. Well, after 2 15-minute conversations with my neighbor, he wants to get a surrogate from a developing country so that his child will never be able to find their biological mother. Women in these countries are not listed on birth certificates, either surrogate or egg donor. He asked me if I'd be willing to consider surrogacy. I am currently pregnant. I am somewhat nervous about this neighbor now, because he has asked a lot of questions about our house and our baby's due date, info on the pregnancy, the plan for the birth, etc. Suffice to say, I won't be hanging out in the front garden with the kiddo when they're born. Edit. Holy crap. Reddit. Apologies, I genuinely didn't realize that this interaction could be read as my neighbor being a pedophile. He's gay, guys, and getting married. Him looking into surrogacy is kind of normal. It's just very odd to bring it up to your pregnant neighbor the way that he did, and his interest in my pregnancy/baby makes me nervous because some people who want kids can be nuts, and he's clearly shown he doesn't have much of a social behavioral filter. So yes, he'd be a terrible parent and is likely a misogynist, but he's not a pedo. I feel kind of bad I've painted him in that light. It wasn't my intention at all. _. Epping hell. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to be the first to know about Red Rabbit Reader's new videos. If you like our videos, please like them on YouTube and share them with your friends. We welcome your comments below. Press to start another of our videos.